good stuff you need to know right here on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Here we go. And the theme of today's show is everybody looks like Tom Brady against our defense. Welcome in to the show on this Monday, this Reaction Monday in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau Insurance. Go with the home team. They are your home team. Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes, that's your local Farm Bureau insurance agents. What is up, my babies? Welcome on in here, and you can be a part of the show back in the normal Farm Bureau insurance studio. So get them on in here. If you're on the live stream, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, formerly Twitter. Now it's just throw up the X. Feel free to comment there. Drop a comment. Post it. I'll see it right here on the screen. Make you part of the show on the Murray West live thread. More on Murray West in just a bit. You can also text the show on the Country Pleasin text line. Country Pleasin sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. It is the best sausage, hands down. Annabeth went to the grocery store yesterday, where we live in Tupelo and Kroger, and came home with some extra Country Pleasin. So it went in the freezer. I'm saving that for a rainy day. It's going to be hard to run out. I keep stacking it up in the freezer like that. Text the show, call the show. All right, the numbers to text and call are 885-3776. Got it? That's the text line. Another way to remember the text line is 885-ESPN. You can text to that number. I'll get it right here. You can also call me on the Divinity phone, 995-1059. That's 601 number, 995-1059. Well, here we sit on another Monday, kind of like we did throughout the month of September, and the early part of October for that matter, and that is coming out of a game when an opposing quarterback has the best day of his life throwing the football against Mississippi State. You know, and it turns out the whole Arkansas thing was the outlier, and, you know, it also, you look at the way State's defense played in the first half against Auburn, or didn't play, however you want to phrase it, and you go, okay, well, maybe now we're getting an indication why Arkansas went ahead and its offensive coordinator the day after losing to State, and they couldn't move the ball because they're going, well, if you can't throw the ball against these guys, what are you even doing? And, I mean, Auburn, look, I'm just going to say it like it is, and I know I'm starting out negative today, but it is just the truth, okay? That Auburn quarterback, Thorne, they couldn't throw the ball against anybody that they have played this year. You know, going out west to play Cal, really even teams like Samford, they didn't throw it that well, okay? And then they ran up on SEC competition, Texas A&M, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, could not throw it in the ocean. Like totally dependent on running the ball. The worst offense in the SEC statistically, okay, and one of the worst passing offenses in the country, hands down, going into that game. And this guy went and completed 77% of his throws, 20 of 26, and threw 3 touchdowns and could do no wrong. It was a total repeat of the early part of the season when, y'all, I've said it, I can't figure it out other than, you know, you can say, yeah, you did lose some key players that were a big part of your pass defense, which is both coverage and rush. But really, I mean, we're talking about, again, Saturday in the first half, which it counts, okay? And just like Zach Arnett said after the game, nobody's giving you any sort of pat on the back for playing a good half. So maybe they played a little better in the second half. Well, I got news for you. Auburn's sitting on a 24-3 lead. It probably affected the way they called the game, don't you think? You're up 24-3. The other guys can't move the ball, and they cannot stop us from throwing short passes. So what are we not going to do offensively? Take chances. We don't have to take chances. We got a 21-point lead. They can't do anything. we're going to put the game on ice and make sure we don't give it to them. Right? And you can do that. So certainly that helped you defensively. Well, again, that first half was an example of what we saw against LSU, South Carolina, Alabama, and Western Michigan. And frankly, for a good part of the game in the season opener against Southeastern Louisiana. And that is not just having a hard time, like getting stops or creating turnovers. No, I mean just having a hard time forcing an incompletion. And I'll say this again. I know, I guess it's sort of a repeat here. We've got some people who listen and are part of the show all the time that you're really good at looking things up. You know where to go. You probably have sort of a link or two that's in your bookmarks. You can go right to the statistical data for years past. I would bet you, without knowing this and without looking it up, I would be willing to bet you money. You can't find in the history of Mississippi State defenses, and let's just go modern era where teams threw the ball. Okay, because if you go to the 70s, nobody was really throwing the ball that much anyway, but it probably still sticks. In the history of defense for State, you're going to have a hard time finding a season where a team gave up this kind of completion percentage to opposing quarterbacks every single week. And again, the Arkansas game's the outlier. You're not going to. We're at 5 games now out of 7. And honestly, I can't remember the first game. The numbers. I'd have to go look that one back up. So I can tell you for sure 5 of the 7 games. Wait a minute. You've played 8 games, right? Yeah, you're 4-4. So LSU, South Carolina, Alabama, Western Michigan, okay, and now Auburn. So that's 5 of your 8 opponents. And it may be more than that, but I know 5 of the 8 opponents who are 77% completions or better. No, that does not happen. Y'all, this is what I'm saying. It doesn't happen. I've never seen it. I know that in 2023, passing games and passing offenses are different now than they were even 15 years ago. Certainly different than 25 years ago. Historically, you go further back, yeah, it's really different. But again, don't you see the point I'm making? I mean, everybody adjusts. We're riding the waves of offensive and defensive schemes and kind of how things grow and evolve just like everybody else. And we're sitting here, and I'm telling you, I have never seen a defense, a Southeastern Conference defense, give up the kinds of completion percentages to opposing quarterbacks that we're giving up. I've never seen it. That's the sticking point for me. It's not rush yards. Sure, teams have had to pop a few runs. It's not, occasionally, getting to another guy, opposing quarterback and hitting him with linebackers or blitz. We do some of that, sure. Okay, but the combination of rushing with your defensive front and then covering on the back end, I have never seen a Southeastern Conference in 5 of its first 8 games give up 77% or better in 5 of those 8 games. Again, and I'm harping on it, LSU, Jaden Daniels, 88% in your house. Set an LSU single game record. The next week, 90%, Spencer Rattler. 90. The next week, Jalen Milroe. Runs fast, hit the deep ball, great kid, not a pocket passer. Completed 83% of his throws in the game. The next week, the third string guy for Western Michigan went out there and went up and down the field at 77% completions. Now, you got after Arkansas out of an open day. You did. And Arkansas got issues. And they felt like not being able to move the ball against State was so bad, they fired a guy the next day. Okay, that's the way they saw it. And then you come back this week and you go to Auburn, playing a team that they threw it all season long as bad or worse than anybody else in college football. And they had 300 yards of offense in the first half, and their quarterback could not miss, and he completed 77% of his throws. That kid hadn't completed 77% of his throws since high school. Ain't even close to it in a ball game. And you couldn't even force an incompletion in the first half. So here's my thing. What's the issue? And it is hard to watch, and you hate it for guys who are out there running down receivers, making tackles at the next level, like Jet and Buki. You know, how many times did you see Jet making line of scrimmage tackles the other day? Not many, right? What's he doing? He's chasing somebody on the next level because it's completed back there. Yeah, it's just the overall, it's hard to wrap your head around it. It really is hard to wrap your head around for me. That there has been some sort of defensive regression consistently like that you've seen every week, and it's hard to figure out where it comes from. I honestly did not. I did not come into the year believing that your players on defense were that bad. I did not come into the year believing that your players in the secondary were that bad. And I honestly, it's not like you're giving up busted plays. See, help me out there also. There's been the occasion where maybe somebody got loose and you had a guy out of position, but a lot of this stuff where guys are going 80% completions on you is they're completing it in front of a guy. They complete it, we tackle them, they've made 6, we line back up. 3rd and 8, they complete it, we tackle them, they make 9 yards, we line back up. Now, they hit deep balls against us in the one-on-one out there in the slot against LSU. But since then, how many go ball bombs have you seen over people's head? That's not what it is. Some of it's matchup stuff, but a lot of it is short routes, easy routes, in front of cushion. You complete it. You come up, we make the tackle. Now it's 2nd and 5. They need 5 on 3rd down. They get a crossing route. They make 8. Line back up, 1st down. And it's like easy. Taking candy, man. I can't figure that part of it out. Yeah, you got offensive issues, okay? And that's it almost feels like a separate conversation, those offensive issues. Because, one, it's offense. 2, the quarterback thing. You hadn't had Will the last couple of weeks. 3, we've beat to death the whole thing of the decision to, abandon anything that you were on offense the last 3 years and go ahead and begin to transition to what you want to be now and you just aren't there yet, which includes tight ends. It includes tighter splits. It includes much more of a run game. And I got news for you. If Woody Marks is healthy, if Woody Marks 100% healthy, things are going to look a little bit different. I think things would look different in that game the other day. And you almost have more of an excuse to be running the ball all that and just get the heck away from the air raid because we got a healthy Woody Marks. But you don't. And now what? And I did not feel like some people were screaming and hollering about play calling the other day. And I didn't feel like it was all that bad of a day play calling offensively. There were 2 short yardage situations in the early part of that game that I just feel like would have made a big difference. And the quarterback made a mistake on both of them. One was a 3rd down, one was a 4th down. Both of them were called plays where he's reading things at the line of scrimmage, and both times he made the wrong decision not to give. Replay showed you on both of those, the 3rd and the 4th down. If he gives the football on the read, the guy stays out, I give it. I really don't know what Mike was trying to do. Pulling it, trying to make something big happen, but it's 3rd and a yard. It's 4th and a yard. And on both of those, if you give it, like he makes 5 yards before anybody breathes on him. That's the way they defended it. And the Auburn people are like, oh, we got a big stop on 4th down. Well, I mean, you were out there. That's it. It ain't like you made the play. We went and shot our own foot because we didn't make the right read on 3rd and 4th down. So they got a lot of issues on offense before you even get to discussing play calling. So that's kind of where it is. And you come out, you fight back in it to a degree in the second half, and guess what? As bad as the first half defense was, in the second half, they got stops and gave you a chance on offense. One second half drive, and that's pretty much it. One fourth quarter drive, it was a good one. But, buddy, two different times they go get stops for you defensively, and you go get the ball and go 3 and out. So the complimentary part of the game. And you give them credit for playing a better second half than the first one. But you get down, you go on the road in the SEC, get down 24-3. What are you going to do? How many times are you going to come back from that? Not many. Not unless you're the air raid and can throw the you-know-what out of it. Run, tell them I said it. You get down 24-3 on the road in the SEC. You got one shot. One thing you need in order to come back from that. You know what it is? You can throw it. Because if you can't, crank the bus. Run the clock. Run, tell them I said it. All right. I got a text from a buddy of mine that said difference in feel this year on defense versus 2016? Boy, that is a good question. And what's interesting is it's interesting that we haven't brought that up yet. So 2016, the first year without Dak, Mullen's still the coach. They went to a first-year defensive coordinator in Peter Sermon, and that was his 1 year there. And at that time, it was so bad compared to those other defenses you had under Jeff Collins and, earlier on in Mullen's career at State. And they had a bunch of NFL players early in his career. But that 2016 defense, the main thing I remember about it was how obvious it was that the guys were thinking way too much. They were in a total state of like mental lockdown, trying to do everything they were being asked to do and be perfect in every little thing, like processing plays like you're on an NFL defense, and guys would just go into lock. And they couldn't break on the ball. It was all they could do to get to the right place, and they were the least read and react defense I've ever seen. Certainly at that time. They were just kind of out there. It was almost like they're trying to get to their spot on the board, but then didn't really know what to do after that. By that time, offense has already got the ball and running down the field. And then I remember, so they made the change after 1 year, and Grantham came in 2017, and it was so different because his philosophy was, we're going to do everything fast. Even when we screw it up, we're going to do it going 1,000,000 miles an hour, playing faster and more chaotic than they are. And the defensive guys loved it. And it was a better way to play. Of course, they had players, okay? You get some real dudes on that 17 defense. But I would say the truth is it's very, very similar at times. And that is, there's just not a level of anticipation. And let's put it this way, like if you're in a defensive secondary, you're in coverage, right? And you're not as fast as the other guys. Okay, you're not as fast as the other guys, and you're in defensive secondary and you're in cover. Let's say that's the case with some teams. Well, what do you have to do? You got to pick and choose when you're going after things. Otherwise, you're going to sit back and play bend, don't break, and they're going to run 15 plays and complete a bunch of 5-yard routes on you right on down the field, which we've seen a bunch. And you come up and tackle and you line back up. But then there are other times where because of what you've seen on film and because you're coached up and you're starting to get a read of it, of what they're running and when, there are going to be times when you have to anticipate where the ball's going and break on it and break it up or make a play. And it can't be at the end of the third quarter the first time you do it. So there's just, it's so easy to stand there and talk about it and lament it like I'm doing right now. The hard thing, one hard thing to do is to figure it out from a coaching standpoint. The hardest thing to do is make it happen on the field. Hardest job on the field is covering receivers, corners, their job. That's the hardest job on the field. But, there's almost something is missing when after everything that has happened with opposing quarterbacks just lighting you up. And again, we're not talking about throwing 5 touchdowns a game. No, we're just talking about you can't even force regular incompletes. It's just automatic completions. It's practice rate completions, y'all. 88, 83, 90. It's absurd. And then a guy that really and truly couldn't throw it in the ocean. 77%, 20 of 26. Bet he slept good the night before after watching the film. And played like it. And so something is missing. Something's missing. All right. I promise I'm coming to your texts and I'm coming to your comments. MSU 1980, Nick, Resdog, Thibodeau, Patrick. RTD, that's Rebel Tiger Dog, and more on the Country Pleasin' text line. Also on the Murray West live thread, Will and Steve and Joseph and Danny, Jimmy, JS290, Gabe, John, all y'all, as my man Neil Price would say, coming to you next on Reaction Monday. You got my reaction. I don't have a lot of analysis right now. I'm just reacting. But I'll get your reaction coming up. So thanks for being a part of the show. Your comments next. I'm Matt. Stick around. Y'all heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. Say they do quality stuff. They really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, I mean, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. MurrayWest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country Pleasin', jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to Country Pleasin' sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both.
Break me off a piece of that.
Look at that. You know what that is? That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now. Country Pleasin' sausage, these flavors and many, many others. Get them online at countrypleasin.com. At a grocery store near you, pretty much anywhere in the Southeast, walk up in there and say, Country Pleasin', please. And they'll know what you're talking about.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down, hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of, what I love about this area, the blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, wind blows, shingles off your roof. All these things happen, and it's typically after 5.
Oh, man, look at this. Somebody made a Country Pleasin' road trip. I'll tell you what I mean coming up. As you can imagine, after that long rant, I got a lot of comments to get to here, both on the Country Pleasin' text line and on the Murray West live thread. If you're on the live stream on YouTube, Facebook, hey to y'all, type in a comment, hit it right here. It pops up on the Murray West live thread. Speaking of, if you need some thread sewn into anything with your logo, your brand insignia, whatever that is, contract embroidery company right here in Mississippi, and they do great work. It is Murray West. And you can see and learn a little more at murraywest.com. That's MURRY West.com. Wherever you are, go there. You need stuff? Need a hat with patches sewn, logos on, embroidered on sweatshirts, gift items, whatever the case is, custom apparel. That's where you go. Murray West, right here in Mississippi, a great Mississippi company. Will commented, he's on YouTube, said, Hail State, sad we didn't win, but at least we're not Arkansas. Well, they had the week off too. And now you're fighting against Arkansas the rest of the season to stay out of the bottom of the West. And, finish the same record, I guess you'll have a tiebreaker, beat them in head-to-head. But about all you got going for you right now. You got to figure out a way to beat some teams that, have looked like better teams this year than you. A&M and Kentucky coming up next, obviously. And you got Southern Miss, who State's actually looked like a better team than Southern Miss, although Southern Miss played pretty well last week at App State on Saturday. Came up short, had a big halftime lead, but got beat in the second half, gave up 20 fourth quarter points and lost. And right now, Ole Miss just looks great. They continue to cruise. And the only team in the league that's worse than State and Auburn is Vandy, and Ole Miss proved it again on Saturday night. No, here's what I was talking about. Hill Dog texts the show on the Country Pleasin' text line. He's got a picture out in front of Country Meat Packers on Highway 49 in Florence. And he's from New Bern, North Carolina. He came down, visited, bought a bunch of Country Pleasin' sausages and took it back to North Carolina with him. He said, I just unpacked the cooler. It says, the lady that helped me at Country Meat Packers was very helpful and so nice. Getting ready to make deliveries to friends in town. So how about that? He comes home to visit Mississippi, goes to Country Meat Packers, buys a bunch of Country Pleasin' sausage, puts it on ice, drives it all the way back to North Carolina, and puts it back in the freezer, and then gives it out to all his friends. He said, everybody here loves this sausage. That's from Hill Dog. Thanks for the picture and the story, and enjoy the food. MSU 1980 texts the show. He said, Matt, like you said at the end of the game, Auburn going for a touchdown at the very end, leading by 14, was classless. It was. And look, and I get it. I mean, there's classless and football really don't care about each other. Those two things don't always run together, or class and football, or winning football even. But it was. It's one of those things where, Zach's a young head coach, first-year head coach. He only had 2 timeouts before they got the ball anyway. He burned those 2 timeouts. But so it's like a so what, they still have, what was it, a second down play, I think, and he's burned his remaining, he doesn't have any timeouts left. There's only like a minute 40 something left on the clock, or less than that actually, left on the clock. And all they got to do is get it in the locker room, and they come out when you don't have a timeout and decide to take a shot at the end zone. It's just Bush League stuff. And, congrats to Auburn for winning the game. But you got to get past Bush League stuff to get out of the bottom of the league. And I know that's what their fan base expects long term. Nick texts the show. He said, Selman is going to have a big decision to make come Thanksgiving. The whole staff looks lost from top to bottom. Nick says you can't learn on the job in this league or you get left behind. It is what it is. Resdog texts the show, and he says, Matt, it's the worst coaching job I've ever seen. Hate it for Arnett, but he's got to go. That's from Resdog. Unnamed texter. No, that's just Thibodeau. Sorry, I didn't see the name. Thibodeau says, he says, my wife and I were out of the country last week. What did I miss other than how bad the defense is? Well, let's see, Thibodeau. Well, what happened last week? Other than how bad the defense is. I don't know. I don't think you missed much. I'll tell you what you missed. You missed a high school kid for Leak Academy throwing 9 touchdown passes in a game. How about that? That's like a career for some folks. Patrick texts the show, says, is it the personnel or the defensive play calling? I've noticed our DB's giving them 11-yard cushions on 3rd and short. Well, Patrick, and that's something that I haven't, talked with a DB coach or like sit there and really breaking film down or comparing it to other defenses. That's a part of the game that I've noticed is, there's a lot of times where you're giving up cushion and stuff, but I think that's just by virtue of not really knowing, who do we have that can bump up into these guys' face mask and run with them in man-to-man, and maybe you don't have it. Maybe you don't. I don't know. You've had 3 different starting corners opposite of DeCam Richardson. See, and DeCamerion Richardson, your most experienced corner coming back. And he's done well at times, but some teams have also, even Auburn, have not hesitated to throw it at him. It's not like he's a Forbes right now where teams are just avoiding him altogether. So that's one thing that's different. But on the opposite side, early in the year, Ferge started, and then I'm drawing a blank. I'm having a senior moment. Number 4, who played well. I'm drawing a blank on the name right now. And then now, let's see, I think they started the freshman, Pollock, over there the other day. And they went at him down in the red zone, and, he got outfought for the ball and then missed the tackle. And I don't know that you saw him a whole lot the rest of the ball game. And look, somebody texted the show and said, we have one of the most dangerous return men in college football. Why not return anything he catches? Play with excitement, not fear. Now, I don't know who you are. I don't know your name. I wish I did, because I would tell you I'm right there with you. I can't. That's something I can't figure out. And here's the deal. Eric Mealy, the special teams coach, has forgotten more about coaching special teams than I know. Okay, that's the fact. I'm not just saying that to soften up any sort of criticism here. That's the truth. I say it to maybe paint a picture that maybe there's something I'm not thinking about. But here's the deal. I can't be convinced that in reality there is any difference in your ability to return a kickoff from just outside the goal line versus 1 step or 1.5 steps or even 2 yards behind the goal line. You see what I'm saying? If Tulu Griffin is 1 yard in front of the goal line, he catches a kickoff, here he goes. But if he's got some kicks, like I think it might have been the first one of the first couple of kicks from Auburn the other day, landed somewhere in the neighborhood of only about 2 yards deep in the end zone. Now, they were angling him over to the pylon, but like on some of those we've seen, I can't understand I can't figure it out. There has to be something we're not seeing. Because if it's only a yard or two, but for me, you're Tulu Griffin, even if it's 5 yards deep, catch the ball and bring it out. I mean, what's 5 yards to a returner like Tulu? Well, the angles are different and this guy. Okay, fine. He's still all he needs is one little crease and he's on the kicker. And then what's 5 yards? Who cares about 5 yards once he's one-on-one with a kicker? I'm like you, when your starting quarterback is out, your starting running back is out. Okay, and I'm not so sure that it isn't a bigger deal that you didn't have Woody Marks than it is you didn't have Will. Really. Because if Woody Marks is in the game, you think you give it to him on 3rd and short? Yep. Ain't no read. You think you give it to him on 4th and short? Yes. But I digress. You're without Will. You're without Woody. You're on the road. You're starting to get behind. Catch the kickoff and let's go. So what if they stop you on the 15? Who cares? If I can throw you a ball and get it in your hands in space, I'll do it, Tulu. If I can sweep you the ball and get you in space, I'll do it. Catch the ball in space, see what happens. You're our best weapon. I 100% agree with that. I cannot figure out. And to me, like, again, I'm simple-minded, so maybe there are details I don't understand. But I don't want to hear anything about angles. Okay? A guy like Tulu creates the angles. I don't want to hear anything about, the distance with the coverage unit and catching it 4 yards deep. Bull! Bring it out. At some point, we got to be a little more aggressive than we're being. It is how I would feel if I were, player. And as a quarterback, that's bad. You feel like you want to be aggressive. You start pumping the ball down the field and throwing interceptions. Quarterback can't do that, but you can be aggressive on kick return, for sure. All right, look, as y'all can tell, I've got my work cut out for me. Coming to your comments. And I'm going to do it next. Rebel Tiger Dog, David, Beeves' former neighbor, Rex, everybody. Ronnie, I'm going to come to y'all. On the Murray West live thread, YouTube, Facebook, coming to you as well. Hang in there. Stay with me. Stick around.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of what I love about this area, the blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, wind blows, shingles off your roof. All these things happen, and it's typically after 5. And so the ability for someone to call me, get in contact with me, text me, ask me a question, and that's what it's about to me, is helping the people that we serve, is taking care of people, and them knowing that they can count on me whenever they need me. I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and murraywest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. I say they do quality stuff. They really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, murraywest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. You need your logo printed and embroidered.
1059 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Back with you. On the Murray West live thread, Roshana said, I've moved on to basketball season. Well, and you had a nice basketball exhibition yesterday between State and Southern Miss. It was competitive down there in Hattiesburg. I think State scored a little more. Now, it's just an exhibition, right? But State won it. But it looked like it was a good ball game. People that were there said it was very competitive and two pretty good teams. All right, over to the phone line, Deviney Equipment phone line. Deviney Equipment in Madison and in Jackson. Your Kubota dealer, 995-1059. On line 1, Houston hanging on. Thanks for calling, Houston. What's up?
Hey, Matt. I know we lost on Saturday, and I was able to listen to you and Neil, and you did a good job, as always. You're one of the guys that's analyzing things, and it just looked like to me that, our team is very heavily dependent on momentum early on. So it just seemed like we were never able to establish any type of rhythm at all. But, and credit to Auburn, they knew our game plan apparently. But anyway, what I'm calling about is I had a terrific time in Dallas, and I just wanted to let everybody know that what a great ambassador we have in Dak Prescott. I don't know if you've seen all the stuff I've done.
I saw your pictures, Houston. The pictures of you at Dallas's game yesterday, and you getting to see and talk to Dak after the game, and he taking pictures with you and everything. It was really, really cool. Congrats on that.
I tell you what, we have a lot of great people and a lot of great former players, and you're one of them. And I like the fact that you said 1998, only one SEC Western Division team in the state it's going to the SEC championship game. But I really appreciate talking with you, and we're going to get it turned around. We're just gonna really believe in our system, and there's certain things that we can do to tweak things, and those players will win a lot worse than we do.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
for sure.
And it's hard to win at Auburn. We've historically struggled there recently, but we've had some very entertaining games there. And but like I said, it's a blessing to talk with you today. And,
You too,
I
Houston.
hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, man. I really do appreciate you calling. Yeah, I enjoyed seeing your pictures on. I think I saw them on Facebook. You guys had posted them, and that was great. Houston was at the big Cowboys game yesterday. They killed the Rams, and Dak was almost flawless. And they had one interception, but it was really a tip ball by a receiver. Which what else is new? But he threw 4 touchdowns and went 80% completions. And then came over and he spent some time with Houston after the game. They took pictures together. That was really, really cool to see. Yeah. Okay. Auburn is a tough place to play. We noted it. I pointed this out, as we were kind of sitting over there. It had been a while since State has gone to Auburn and gotten off to a good start. Seems like all the recent trips, State would go over there and really get off to poor starts. And, of course, the one before this one came back, 40 unanswered points because you could throw the ball, and got hot. And you came back, won the game. But you've had some others you just go over there and lay an egg in the early part of the game. And, of course, this one as well. And this is a bad Auburn team. I mean, it just is, y'all. It's a bad Auburn team, and particularly a bad Auburn offense. And, man, they didn't look bad. Like as I said, they had 300 yards of offense in the first half. Okay, and we're up 24-3 at halftime. Now, they only had a grand total of 116 yards of offense in the second half. And that is a credit to State. State played hard out of the locker room. They did. Defensively, they did step up and get some stops in the second half to give the offense a chance, and the offense couldn't respond enough to get back in there and maybe tie the game, whatever. State actually did outscore Auburn in the second half 10-3. But when you're down 24-3 at half to a team that can't win, a team that's 0-4 in the SEC, you know what they're going to do in the second half. A team that couldn't offense its way out of a wet paper sack all year long, you know what they're going to do with a 24-3 lead at home. What? They're going to sit on it. They all of a sudden are going to tighten up. This is not a well-oiled machine on offense, and so they were going to try to just keep the ball and depend on State to not be able to score offensively, and that's how it worked. And so that's a little bit as to – it's not to take all the credit away from State in the second half, but that's a little bit as to why the numbers were so skewed first half to second half. But this is again, we've made a big deal out of it. I don't have the game-by-game numbers. In fact, I will look them up here in just a little bit to see if I can get individual stats for Auburn and look at their quarterback in some of these other games. But in this game, I don't know if y'all realize it, but in this game, he threw the ball 26 times. State forced consecutive incompletions, back-to-back incompletions from their quarterback one time in the ballgame. And what I'm saying is, whatever you want to chalk up that right there up to, it's not athleticism, and it's not personnel, and it's not players. Whatever you want to chalk it up to. Didn't execute. Mentally, they had errors. Okay. But it ain't how fast you are or aren't, and it ain't how big and strong you are or aren't. When you play that Auburn offense against that Auburn quarterback, and he throws it 26 times, and only one time in a game can you force back-to-back incompletions. David and Brandon text the show. Country Pleasin text line. And he said that deep shot at the end of the game was a response to that shot on Auburn's quarterback the play before. Well, maybe it is. I don't know if it is or isn't, if it was or wasn't in response to that shot. But let me just say this, David. If it was in response to the quote-unquote shot on Auburn's quarterback the play before, then bull. Line them all up. Let's get them all on the phone. Let's watch the film. And let's show them bull with a capital B. Bull. Because when they ran that play the play before, when you say a shot on Auburn's quarterback, well, what were they running? Do you remember? Right. They were doing something incredibly stupid with a running back who just popped a 50-yard run. And all they've got to do is run clock. And they obviously were in run clock mode. What did they do? They didn't give it to the running back. They let the quarterback take the snap and start retreating out to the left, losing ground. Like it's like this half, rollout to his left, and he's just got the ball, and he's out here just kind of hanging out and running around in front of a linebacker. Well, what do you think a linebacker's going to do? And he didn't take a shot. He tackled him. Pull the play up. Put the film on, and let's watch it together. The quote-unquote shot on the quarterback was what? A tackle for loss to a defense that's trying to get the ball back. When they started running the play, you'll hear me on the broadcast go, what is Auburn doing? Because they did what? Instead of a running back who's trained to hang on to the ball, they're running their quarterback around out here in no man's land trying to do something stupid. And they got him tackled, and I'm supposed to believe that's a shot on the quarterback that warrants now they're out of timeouts, I'm going to try to throw a touchdown. You know what? Bull. So whether that's your thinking or someone's told you that, listen, it's bull. And what they did was they wanted more points on the board. And I don't know who it was for, whether it was for themselves or who it was for, but it was a no-class deal. Period. End of story. Print it. Send it. All right, let's look at this quarterback. What number does he wear? What number does Thorne wear for them? Anybody know? I don't have the slightest idea. Oh, he wears number 1. All right, so if I could look at stats for Auburn, I wanted to see what he did in the rest of the year. All right. Game by game. Against State, he is 20 of 26. Against Texas A&M, what was he? I go back here. Shoot. We'll have to do it in the second half. The music's playing. So we can see maybe what he was.
Hey, Matt Wyatt.
Game. What's up?
Real quick, I did happen to see earlier this morning, against the rest of the SEC so far, he had completed 61%. Against Mississippi State, he completed 80%.
There you go, Beaver. Against Texas A&M, he went 6 for 12. Georgia, 10 for 19. Against LSU, went 12 of 23. Against Ole Miss the week before, went 9 for 13. And this week, he's 20 for 26 with 3 touchdowns and Tom Brady. Hour 2 coming up. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but But irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal, the taste brand, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing, it's a fun thing, it's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing, it's a wing wing. A brand new transparent fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards, sliding rear window, floor mats, and AM/FM stereo. That's a $625 value at no extra charge. But hurry, offer ends soon.
Wyndham in Oxford. Call 662-638-8060.
Hi, I'm Dr. Portia Ballard SB, President and CEO of your Mississippi Urban League, located in Jackson, Mississippi. We're proud to serve as one of 90-plus affiliates of the National Urban League, which was founded in 1910, and today spearheads the development of social programs, authoritative public policy research, and advocates for policies and services to close the equity gap. We at the Mississippi Urban League are dedicated to economic empowerment, equity.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country Pleasin, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to Country Pleasin sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both. Greg me off a piece of that. Look at that. You know what that is? That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now.
Matt Wyatt Show, coming to you direct and live at the Zone 105.9 and worldwide. Now, here we go. At the Zone1059.com.
Here we go. Hour number 2 of the show, off and running with you. Staying connected to you because of C Spire, the number one network in Mississippi. C Spire, customer inspired. Check them out at cspire.com. Was it Will says here on the Murray West live thread, this season our opponents are averaging 72.9% completions. Our 20-year allowed completion percentage average is 59%. Boy, when you look, Will, me and you as State fans, okay, so the 20-year average, and we're talking about most of your life and most of my adult life. That's a long time, right? So across 20 years, we're used to, on average, seeing about 59% from opposing quarterbacks. And this year, we're watching 72% on average, and that's all of them. See, that's all of them. And we've had some 90s and 83s and 88s. Will has also done the research. The worst season for completion percentage, this is opposing QBs versus a state defense. He said what before this was the worst one before this one was 2011. State's defense gave up 64.5% completion that year. We're 8% higher this year than our worst year ever in terms of completion percentage for an opposing quarterback. Does that make sense? So what you're saying is, Will, and again, you could go back and look it up and compare, and this would be more work for you. And look, I am not trying to give you more work, but compared to 2016, and we always remember how bad 2016 was. Good heavens. All right, over to the phone line, the Davini Equipment phone line, Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson. Rooster on line 1. Rooster, thank you for being patient. What's up?
That's all right. Happy Halloween. What do you mean 16 was bad? It was 55-20. That was the score. 55-20.
No. We weren't talking about the Egg Bowl. We were talking about the 2000. This was so this goes back to the first hour conversation, Rooster. It was the season, the whole season opposing quarterbacks completion percentage against our defense. And this year it is historically very, very poor, just forcing incompletions from opposing quarterbacks.
Well, sure.
That was what defense. Yeah, but that's right. Now 16. But you're right. 16 did end with a bang because of that huge blowout in the Egg Bowl.
Yeah, I was there. I mean, Nick Fitzgerald run crazy up and down the field. Hallelujah. That was Hugh Freeze's demise. And, that's the thing. I think I called on your show and made my prediction. Was 0-10. Auburn and Arkansas won it 1-9 SEC.
Yeah, you won.
You don't lose to Auburn. But the good thing about it was I got a good nap. I mean, second quarter, I cut it off, took a nap.
So that was the silver lining, huh?
Yeah, I slept like a baby apparently. Woke up and and the good thing about this week, I get to go to Oxford of all places. Oxford. The game, we've got 2 games in Mississippi. One is 11 o'clock in Oxford, and one is 6:30 or 7 in Starkville.
There you go.
So you can do both. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
The question is Woody out for the season? Is he going to play Saturday? What's the update?
I have not heard anybody say anything that led me to believe he was out for the season. And
they can win that game without Will Rogers, but they're not going to win that game without Woody Monk. No way.
Yeah.
And almost like, Sam Pittman made the statement, we have to win this game. I hope Arnett doesn't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah, don't say.
There's 4 games left on the schedule. You got to win 2.
Yeah.
Unless there's a 5-7 possibility with what do you call it, ARC, APR standings.
Yeah.
I don't think you can rely on that this year. Remember the year we went to the bowl with 5 and 7?
Hey, but you know what APR stands for, don't you?
Academic something.
It stands for academic progress rate or something like that.
Yeah.
APR. And I'm thinking, wait, is the NCAA still monitoring the academic progress rate, or whatever they call that?
I don't know. I don't know, because it sure looks like if we don't win Kentucky, there won't be 6 wins.
Yeah.
This looks like a must-game. They can beat them, like I say, they can beat them without Will Rogers, but they're not going to beat them without probably a 200-yard rushing game. They're going to make somebody carry the football.
Yeah.
Sure wish we had Dylan Johnson. I always thought he was better than Woody.
Who's that?
He's bigger anyway, But yeah, the pleasant thing was I missed my prediction. I mean, oh Lord, it's bad to lose to you, please. But I got a great nap,
Got a nap in.
But this weekend, be at both places. I hope other people will do that too. Support both teams.
Yeah.
Need a good crowd there. Need a sellout.
Yeah. Rooster.
It'll be sold out at Oxford, I guarantee.
Oh yeah.
Probably already
they got Texas A&M. Oh yeah, they'll have a great crowd. Yeah, they're flying high right now.
They're in the coach's poll. Ole Miss is number 10.
How about that? And rightfully so. I mean, you watch them, to their credit too, they look like they're getting better each week. I know, and particularly after that Alabama game, but Ole Miss doesn't have the look of some of their past teams, even that one last year, that they kind of just, they're good, they're explosive, depending on who they play, but you knew they were going to run up against some better teams. And this one, that coaching staff really seems to be, week to week, getting a little better here and a little better there. So they got Ole Miss people excited right now. Rooster's gone. I heard the beep. Good to hear from you, Rooster. Appreciate you being patient. Yeah. So, look, I know there's probably somebody out there going, well, Matt, you sure have talked a lot about State's defense when it's actually their offense who has played 8 quarters of football and come up with exactly two touchdowns in 8 quarters of football. Yeah, you're right. Like we said, again, part of the game flow against Auburn on Saturday was that defense had the poor first half, give up 300 yards in the first half to a bad Auburn offense, frankly, down 24-3 at halftime. But the reason Auburn's able to come out in the second half and sort of take the ball out of harm's way and don't need to take chances because they know, well, their offense can't score. So, and if Auburn would have had to be much different offensively if they were against an offense that's blowing and going on the other side, but it wasn't. So all that stuff kind of plays a factor there. I would like to take a moment to chat it up with Beaver if he's here. Let me see the bell here. Is that too much? Hey, B.
Hey, Matt Wyatt.
How's your Monday going?
It's fine so far.
So far, so good? Would you mind telling the listeners about the goodies I sent you a picture of before the show today?
Oh, what did you call these things?
I called those things yummy mummies.
Yummy mummies. So it's Nutter Butters covered in white chocolate, drizzled in more white chocolate, and chocolate chips for eyes.
Yes, and they look like mummies. And my mom, as they say over in Great Britain, my mom made them. Nutter Butter cookies. Y'all, I was telling Beaver this before the show. I said, there are Nutter Butter cookies covered in white chocolate, and then it's drizzled all across them to make it look like it's wrappings of a mummy, and then 2 chocolate chips as the eyes, and they call them Yummy Mummies. And he said, hey, you had me at Nutter Butter cookies. Beaver, I have another question for you. Is white chocolate the same thing as almond bark?
I don't think so. Is it?
See, I don't know. I don't know the answer. My mother's, when she texted, I said, what is that you made put on the outside of that? She said, oh, it's almond bark or white chocolate. And I said, wait a minute, that's the same thing? She said, I don't know, look it up. My mom's advice to me was, I don't know, Google it. And I hadn't had a chance to Google it. I figured you might know.
Well, I go back to, whatever I'm trying to say here, that episode of The Office when Michael offered everyone, it was almond bark, and they sounded disgusted. Nobody likes that but you, they said. So I feel like it's something different because I don't know that everyone would have made such a stink over just white chocolate.
Yeah, right. Okay, so maybe it's a little different. Well, you bring up an interesting reference there because I got to give you an Office reference, baby. Today is October the 30th. And on this day, October 30th, 2008, the episode known as Employee Transfer aired on that Thursday night, October 30th, 2008 on NBC, The Office, Employee Transfer. Does that name of that episode ring a bell for you, Beav, at all?
No.
All right, here's the synopsis. By the way, this was... Okay, go ahead.
Let me try to guess just from the name. Employee Transfer. Was that the one where Stanley was threatening to go work for Karen?
No, but good guess. This was season 5, the 6th episode of season 5. This was when they transferred Holly away from Michael. But it was a Halloween thing. Remember they were all dressed up, okay? And like the main story on that particular episode, Beaver, was that Holly Flax had to transfer to Nashville or wherever it is. And they went on the road trip. You know, Daryl drove them in his truck. And Michael made them listen to that song, Life is a Highway, over and over again.
Yeah.
But, Beaver, I hate that song. I cannot stand that song. But they were all dressed up, you know, at the beginning of the episode. They were dressed up in their Halloween costumes. And that was the one where Creed was dressed like the Joker from Batman. And it seems like he and Dwight both were dressed up like the Joker for Batman. Let's see here. Oh, and it's the one where you remember Pam is at art school in New York, and she dressed up for Halloween and got to school and realized she was the only one who dressed up. Mm-hmm. Nobody else did it. Remember that? So anyway, yeah, that was the episode. But it aired on this day back in 2008. That was the 5th season and 6th episode of that 5th season of The Office. So there you go. And also one other thing for you, Beaver, this is a big day for you. Feel free to go out and celebrate later with some candy corn. It is National Candy Corn Day. So get yourself a handful of candy corn and just shove them in your mouth, eat them all at once. Okay? Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Did you ever eat those candy corn we gave you? Or did you just find someone else to give them to? I must have given them to somebody else. All right. Here we go. Over to the Murray West live thread. JS290 says, see, that's what I'm telling you. There's 2 types of people in this world. Me and y'all. I like candy corn. JS290 says, candy corn is disgusting. I disagree. We were talking about historical completion percentage. Will's looking it up for us because this year's defense at State has given up just an unbelievable high percentage of completions to opposing quarterbacks. Will says our 50-year average is 54.5%, basically. He said, but you got to consider that's in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Teams weren't throwing the ball back then. Yeah, that's right. It really is true, Will. I mean, you can go back to, a time in the late 80s, early 90s where some quarterback in college completing 60% of his throws was a very high percentage for that day, for that time. And like I said earlier when we were talking about it in the first hour, I understand that it's kind of a modern era for everybody's pass game and just offenses and schemes and style of play and everything is different now than it was, but it's not like some schools stayed with the old stuff and some schools went with the new. Like everybody has been taken along into this and State's no different. It's just, when I say I've never seen anything like it, the numbers you're looking up back it up. We ain't seen anything like it. We have not seen it. As Gabe said, he looked it up. Will looked it up as well. And when we brought this up, we're talking about how bad the 2016 defense was at times. But opposing quarterbacks in 2016 completed 61%, rounded up to 62. This year, you are at 73% for opposing quarterbacks, and you've had 88s and 90s. I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't have one clue what to say about it or how or why, because I had never seen it before. We have someone on the Country Pleasin text line that says, I love candy corn, especially mixed with peanuts. It tastes like a payday. Throw in some M&Ms, yum. I agree. I like it. How can you not like it? It's just sugar. Do you like sugar? The answer is yes. Okay. All right, and look, so, we'll move on at some point here. Take a look at a few other scores that happened this weekend. Georgia beats up on Florida, so on and so forth. I don't know about the entire, spectrum of games across the entire top 25 country this coming weekend. How good, bad, whatever. I know in the SEC it's a little blah, actually. But you do have Alabama LSU this weekend. We'll see what happens. Speaking of Bama and LSU coming up this weekend, here on the Davini Equipment phone line, I got a call from LSU 10 on line 1. Thanks for calling. What's up?
Hey, man, I got a question for you. I asked Steve, but he's like me. He doesn't know. All right, we get in a shootout with Alabama, we will win that game. And no doubt about that because we have the better quarterback.
Yeah.
But, all right, let's say for the sake of argument we do win. And then we win out. Who wins the West, us or Ole Miss?
See, I don't know how you decide that because without looking up the tiebreakers, LSU 10, my first reaction, my first thought is surely the first tiebreaker would be the head-to-head competition. But I think we've had that in the past, and I think I found myself to be wrong because they factor – I got to look it up and see, but I know one of the deciding factors in the tiebreaker is each team's record against their own division, right? Like, so you'd look and see who beat who, but then again, you're kind of stuck there because LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama are all in the same division. So I just feel like, without looking it up, don't quote me on this because I can look up here in a minute what the tiebreakers are, but I just feel like in a scenario where if you had this three-way tie, it looks to me like since they're all in the West, it may sure enough come down to head-to-head competition, and if LSU and Ole Miss are tied, then that would be Ole Miss. But I'll look it up here in just a second, LSU 10, and see if I can find the right answer, okay?
I appreciate it because I've been thinking about that all day, and I said, I just called my buddies on the good show Notice I said the good show.
I appreciate
it. And y'all could get an answer for me because,
yeah, let's see.
Well, if I want to know something, this is where I call to find out.
Well, I really do appreciate that. And like I say, if I don't have the answer here, I can hopefully, look it up for you.
Oh, and another thing, I'll have you some of that good deer sausage before long.
Bring it.
I got to do
ready.
its process right now.
Okay. How long does it, when you take one, how long does it take before you go back and pick it up?
A good 3 weeks because I let mine hang for 10 to 14 days.
Okay. Is that pretty typical for everybody else?
Well, some do, some don't. I just think it makes it taste better.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more tender after it's been hanging in the cooler for that long.
I got you. Hey,
that's the way my granddaddy was a cattle farmer, and that's the way he did his cows, so I just adopted it to the critters I shoot.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah. Do it the same way. Hey, let me just read you. I think what I've got here is an article where somebody spelled it out. Let me read you what it said for SEC championship game, tiebreakers, a 3-team tie or more. It says here, if 3 teams or more are tied for a division title, in this order: first, combined head-to-head record among the tied teams. Then it goes to the record of the tied teams within the division. Then the third thing, head-to-head competition against the team within the division with the best overall conference record. Now, that may sound a little confusing, but I found it, and I'll discuss it a little further on the other side of the break, LSU 10. Hopefully that helps.
Because, if they went by points, we'd win hands down. We averaged an ungodly amount of points in every game.
Yeah, but I'm not seeing that right now as one of the top tiebreakers. Appreciate the phone call. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. So we'll look at that, kind of break it down and see what that scenario is. Stick around.
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is, Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product, even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yes, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh.
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
For your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto. But not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce, and a better blend of...
All right, back with you. I'm Matt. LSU 10 was wondering about tiebreakers. You know, if and what if. So you got Alabama, LSU playing this weekend. Well, and Ole Miss is sitting out there with one conference loss. It happens to be to Alabama. So there is certainly a scenario where if LSU were to beat Alabama this weekend, you could end up with either a 2 or a 3-way tie in the West Division. And then they got to go through the tiebreaker scenarios to see who gets to go to the SEC championship game. And so it's really clear. I mean, it's very, very clear that Ole Miss, because they beat LSU earlier this year, is pulling for LSU this weekend to beat Alabama, who Ole Miss lost to. And that gives Ole Miss a better chance of getting in a tiebreaker. Something may fall their way. But it is a little bit complicated, as you can imagine. Know this. It says if you have 3 teams or more, so you have 3 or more teams tied at the top of the division with the same record at the end of the year, we start going through these tiebreaker levels. And if at some point one of the teams gets knocked out and now we only have 2, then they just go back and start over with the 2-team tiebreakers. And the number 1 tiebreaker between 2 teams, if you have a 2-team tie, is simply head-to-head. Okay, so LSU 10, just start right there. Know this, LSU 10. If you somehow wind up tied with Ole Miss and it's just a 2-way tie, Ole Miss and LSU at the top of the West, Ole Miss is going because they beat you. Right? So as an LSU fan, you got to make sure you are not in a 2-way tie with Ole Miss. They get the head-to-head. So that's what we're saying. Head-to-head between 2 teams is the deal. But here it is. If you have a 3-way tie, let's say we get to the end of the year and Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss all have 1 loss, and they are to each other. First, 3 or more teams tied. First tiebreaker. Combined head-to-head record among the tied teams. So what's Alabama? If you had Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, what's Alabama's record against these 2? What's LSU's record against these 2? What's Ole Miss's record against these 2? And in that case, it would be the same. Then the next one is the record of the tied teams within their division. So even in a 3-way tie, number 1 tiebreaker is head-to-head. Number 2 is against your division. Well, the scenario we're talking about, they'd all have the same Western Division record, right? See, that helps Ole Miss too because they play Georgia, but it's out of the division, right? But it still counts as an SEC loss. So that's the thing for Ole Miss. They still have work to do with Georgia on the schedule, but they can beat them. They can. They get the offense. You never know. So head-to-head in the division. And then third thing is head-to-head competition against the team within the division with the best overall conference record, not each other. So that's where it really gets interesting to me, is because then it starts to knock it off. Like best conference record, you start going through the West division. The fourth level is the overall conference record against non-divisional opponents. So Eastern Division, the crossover for these West teams. So LSU 10, it's head-to-head, it's in the division. You got to go 4 levels into the tiebreaker before you get to where they start considering your record against the Eastern Division. And once you get there, then it might not favor Ole Miss if they're sitting there with a loss to Georgia. But even then, you're still looking at a scenario where you, in order to have the 3-way tie with a 2-loss team, they'd all have to have 2 losses, which is, to me, very unlikely. So the head-to-head is going to kind of play it out. So as simple as you can make it right now, LSU 10 is you definitely want to beat Alabama this weekend. Okay? And then you definitely want Ole Miss to lose to Georgia. Right? Yeah. And then if everybody wins out from there, you got it. That's basically how that works. You see how hard that is for somebody like me? Somebody else could have explained that in 30 seconds. That was hard on me. All right, here we go. Other games from the weekend. Let's do it now. We'll look at the scores. First, though, Country Pleasin text line, Jason in Flagstaff texts the show, and he said, can State do what Arizona has done in the portal? They've got a monster brewing in Tucson on the strength of their transfer-heavy defense. Pretty much dominated a very good Oregon State offense Saturday night, and Washington State before that, and they were horrible on defense last year. Well, Jason, I'll tell you this. I think the answer is yes. Jason, you're loyal to this show and loyal to me, and I hadn't even spent a lot of face-to-face time with you, but we're friends, right? And I owe it to you to give you an honest answer. And the truth is, I feel a little icky, even at this point, getting on the radio and talking about a scenario that involves, massive turnover on your roster, basically cutting guys off the roster who are maybe even scholarship football players, or encouraging them to transfer, and, that whole thing, because you ain't supposed to do that, right? I mean, but here we are. And if you're going to be competing against schools who from one year to the next will basically cut guys off their roster, send them packing, encourage them to leave however they do it, and then go out and hit the portal and bring in new players. If you're going to be and improve drastically, and if you're going to be competing against people that do that, you have to consider doing it yourself, don't you? Yeah, if it's within the rules. Like, it's kind of like I remember one of the first couple of years that Mike Leach was the head coach at State. I was having a conversation with him, and it was regarding some of these teams out there that are intentionally flopping and faking injury to get free timeouts, and it became a sort of a rampant issue. It was really kind of looked bad, and it was obviously they weren't hurt and all this. And he says, yeah, they ought to do something to stop it. He said, but if they don't, we got to be prepared to tell a guy to hit the deck. If the other guys are going to do, I can't let them do it and have the advantage and us not do it and us not have the advantage if it's within the rules. You see, so anyway, all of that to say, Jason, yeah, I think is the answer. If you can't be this, you can't have that many issues, and in this environment, frankly, not look for a way to address it in the portal. I mean, that's just the way it is. I hate to say it, but it's the way it is. And the other thing is, Jason, you let the season continue to, I don't know, stink. There's going to be a bunch of players you're not going to have to encourage them to leave. Unfortunately. I mean, you're not going to have to encourage some to leave. Instead, there's some you're going to have to be convincing them to stay. And that's just the world that we live in now. Josh brings this up. He's on the Murray West live thread on Facebook. Go to murraywest.com. You need your logo embroidered on anything. Contract embroidery company right here in Mississippi, Murray West. You can learn more about them online at murraywest.com. John said it takes a certain type of coach and money to be able to get quality portals. Says how many of our portals have contributed. Yeah. And I mean, I guess to a degree, it's kind of like recruiting. I mean, you hit on some and you miss on some, but it seems to me on those, it's all about an immediate fix. And so you got to hit. You got to hit on them for sure. Other games this weekend. Georgia whipped up on Florida, 43-20. What was that? 26-7 at halftime. Ole Miss whipped Ole Miss really could have named their score. They just called off the dogs at halftime, right? I mean, they're up 26-0. I was talking to Annabeth on the phone as I was walking to my car outside of Jordan-Hare Stadium at Auburn on Saturday after the game. And she said, well, be careful on the road. She said, you can listen to the Ole Miss game. I said, well, no offense, but I'm probably going to listen to another game, some other game. And she said, why? I said, because I already know the outcome, okay, and everybody else does too. I said, I just watched two of the worst teams in the SEC, and in fact, Vanderbilt probably the only one that's worse than these two. And knew the score. They could have beat them as bad as they wanted to. Tennessee over Kentucky. You know, I know there was some controversy there, officiating stuff, but look, it's a Southeastern Conference. And if you're playing even one that's even sort of kind of smells and looks like a blue blood, and that would be Tennessee, then you got to go into a game expecting to have to overcome lenient officiating on their part. Yeah, you expect it. So if you see a Kentucky fan and they're complaining about officiating, tell them, hey, take our approach in the Western Division when we play Alabama. We expect to get punched in the gut so that when they slap us in the face, it ain't that bad. All right. A little bit of time left with you here on this Monday. Stick around.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and murraywest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. Say they do quality stuff. They really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, I mean, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, murraywest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough.
need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West. You can find them online. MurrayWest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
I had this opportunity come up through a friend of mine that was an agent here at Farm Bureau that, he said this may be something I like to do because he knew I was involved in the community. And what we do, we're supporting the community. We're doing stuff to protect the members of our community. I've been here almost a decade. And what we do, we help people every day through the products we sell. We make recommendations to them, stuff to protect their assets, protect their lives, their families, and we're local. We're local people. Everybody that works in this office has grown up here, lived here, played ball in this community. I've coached in this community, been on the park boards, the sports league boards, the Rooster Club boards. The community is what's important here in Farm Bureau. We push the local community. We're a Mississippi company. That's a Washington School team ball from 2019. Greg Wallace was the head coach then, and him and I were really good friends. I've been in Greenville my whole entire life. My family's been here. This is home. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to support the people of Washington County, protect them. I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County. We are the home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country Pleasin, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to Country Pleasin sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both.
Break me off a piece of that.
Look at that. What that is. That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now. Country Pleasin sausage, these flavors and many, many others. Get them online at Country.
All right. I'm Matt in the Bureau, in the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Mark said on the Murray West live thread, he's on YouTube, he said, remember, we have Vanderbilt's second-string quarterback starting for us. Well, but talking about the portal, I would say, what kind of shape would you be in if you didn't? Now, I might be a little biased here, and he hadn't played a college snap yet, but I'm just telling you, the Ware kid from Tupelo, he can play. He's an excellent athlete, smart as a whip, and he can really throw it. He was State's second best passer back in the spring behind Will Rogers. He's a better passer, better thrower of the football than Mike Wright was. But he didn't have any experience, a little younger, and Wright had already played in 20 SEC, had 20 starts over the course of his career at Vanderbilt before he got here. So the big difference in experience and that kind of thing, and you put somebody out there in an SEC game who hadn't played yet, that'd be kind of throwing them to the wolves. But you're in that position, right, because you didn't have any experience depth at quarterback that stayed. Sawyer Robertson had played a couple of mop-up snaps, but and even after he's gotten to Baylor, he looks like somebody who's just got so far to go in terms of developing to the point that he's ready to carry an offense and really run an offense game by game. He wasn't ready, but he was your most experienced backup coming back. And then really talented young kid, another one who transferred out. He's now starting up at Wisconsin. So you can lament that all you want to, but I'll tell you this, you better be doggone glad you got him. And the other thing is pretty clear to me that upon making an offensive staff hire and a philosophy change on offense, that one thing that they wanted was a mobile quarterback in the mix. And that's one thing that he does give you. And to Mike's credit, he, in the second half, when you had to start putting it in the air, he made some throws. And when he's sitting back there in that pocket you don't really freak out because he's so athletic. He can get away and create every now and then, at least extend plays. And he made some throws the other day in the second half. Just, really too little too late and not necessarily consistent enough to string together enough drives. So it's not burying the lead. I think a lot of the defensive stuff is the issue, but offense is an issue too. I mean, it's equally an issue. When I know it's your backup quarterback, you don't have him, and you're without Woody Marks. It really is. So it's kind of bad timing for State because you're playing the two worst teams in your division, Arkansas and Auburn, in back-to-back weeks, and you play 8 quarters against them and score 2 touchdowns. The truth about it is, it was just a missed opportunity on Saturday because a more competent offense is really going to change how the flow of that game goes. But and they're fortunate to come out of that stretch. The way they've played on offense, they're really fortunate to come out of that stretch with at least one win, and still feeling like they got their nose above water going in this Kentucky game. And if they could pull off the upset this week, bowl game still on the table, that whole deal. Who are the others? Oh, Texas A&M beat South Carolina, obviously. But, as time goes on for State, too, the Arizona game continues to look more and more like a good win, and the South Carolina game continues to look like a bad loss, doesn't it? South Carolina is now 2-6 and 1-5 in the SEC. A&M put up 30 points on them. A&M's 3-2 going to Ole Miss this week, 3-2 in the SEC. So I don't know. The thing about A&M, you look at their matchup this week against Ole Miss. The thing about them is they just don't look like a team that's going to go on the road and score a whole bunch of points, right? Which is what you're going to have to do to have a chance to beat Ole Miss in their stadium in there, And LSU just about pulled it off, but still couldn't pull it off. A&M, they beat Auburn at home by scoring 27 points. And, of course, their starting quarterback, Wegman, he's hurt, so they're playing Max Johnson. He does have experience. So they beat Auburn scoring 27. They beat Arkansas scoring 34. 20 points in a loss to Alabama. 13 points in a loss to Tennessee. Now, that was on the road. And then 30 at home in the win over South Carolina. 33 in the early season loss on the road at Miami. So, here they go to Ole Miss this week, which is pretty much a top 10 team. And certainly a top 10 offense, right? And just seem to, as a team, that, all the positivity from winning, the coaching staff getting a lot out of them. They seem to be getting better. They're certainly getting more healthy, right? So I don't know how you look at the two teams and come up with some scenario where that Texas A&M team scores enough points. I think they're going to have to depend on Ole Miss to maybe have a bad day, maybe turn it over some. We'll see. But anyway, that's how it looks. If an LSU team goes to Oxford and can't stop them, how's an A&M team going to go to Oxford and stop them? That's what you're thinking. Anyway, but that's why they play the game. It's not always on paper. Regarding Mississippi State, somebody texted in and said, do you think that we hang on to Chris Parson? Some of those I just don't know. I'm not privy to the relationships and that sort of thing. I'm really not. I don't know what they're going to do. and so much of it, all those decisions are going to predicate on what happens over these next 3-4 weeks into Thanksgiving and through Thanksgiving, right? I mean, it's almost like name a scenario and then we can talk about the possibilities. You go, okay, well, what if you don't win another game? Well, then you may be looking at wholesale stuff. But you may not, because, again, old school, old way of thinking is, all this turnover, a situation where a guy steps in for a coach who unexpectedly passes away, you got to give him more time than 1 year, right? You got buyouts to deal with and all that kind of stuff, recruiting to it. And as has been discussed a bunch, the wild card in everything for any school out there right now is the current environment. The transfer portal is wide open. There's nothing to really stop you there. I mean, we got coaches really across the spectrum, but you got extreme examples of 50-plus guys gone off a roster and replaced in 1 year, and that team's actually better. What do you do to be attractive to people in the portal other than just piling up your money and paying them? Okay, because frankly, there's a lot of schools out there that are piling up the money and paying them. And if they can, okay, you can too. But see, you got to attract them somehow, right? All those things. And that may put the onus on having something to sell before you've even played a game in it. It's a tough deal. I don't envy anybody who's got those kinds of decisions potentially in front of them. I really don't. We were talking about roster turnover. Jason in Flagstaff texted the show and said, I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but there are a lot of parallels between where Zach Arnett is right now and where Jed Fish was out here at Arizona in his first year. A whole bunch of things were in bad shape to begin with before their quarterback went down. He says he and anyone else was going to be in trouble this year and need more than one or two to do anything. Yeah, you're talking about quarterbacks? Yep. Need more than one or two. More than one or two players. For sure. Somebody texted the show and said, I remember at the beginning of the season when all the coaches and writers' polls came out, State was picked last in the division. Says, seems like every commentator couldn't believe they were picked last and that the defense was going to be outstanding. Well, I certainly didn't think they'd be this bad. And, it's a little bit splitting hairs. A lot of people would go, well, just because you have people back, it might not necessarily mean anything. Yeah, but it usually does. 9 times out of 10, it does when you have that much and that many older guys back. It's just that before you saw them play games, nobody really knew that offensively this was going to be grabbing a hold of the rug that was the air raid and going whoosh, and jerking it right out from under them, taking it out back, throw it in the dumpster, and just start over. And by doing that, whatever your experience factor was on offense, you removed it by doing that. And nobody really knew that until you actually start watching them play games and realize that's what's going on here offensively. So that was part of it too. But then defensively, there's just no one at all could have predicted. You could have said they're going to struggle on defense. No one would have ever predicted they would have the worst pass defense statistically that they've maybe ever had. Nobody would have predicted that. All right. That's been fun. Reaction Monday in the books. We'll line up again tomorrow. Do it again. Same time, same place. Farm Bureau Studio. For Beaver, I'm Matt. All of us here on the show. See you tomorrow. See you.